Welcome back, everyone, to Highness Talk. I hope you're all doing well. We are here to talk about health, wealth, well-being in this crazy thing that we call life. I'm Sydney.
I'm Tawny.
I'm Nina.
And we're going to get into it. So the last episode, we really went over two of the pillars of reparenting, which were emotional regulation and discipline. How did y'all do with that?
I think we were all, mostly all on different ends of the spectrum, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning a lot.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, in this episode, I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at you.
Oh, great. Good to know. Okay. Am I supposed to respond? Who would have to respond to that question?
Usually.
Okay.
Poses a question.
But she said we're all on this different spectrum, so I didn't know if I should start or...
It's okay. It's
Okay.
fine. This episode, we are going to be getting into joy, which we have plenty of, and self-care, what that looks like, how it is a part of reparenting, why we need it, things of that nature. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited, if you can't tell. I love talking about self-care.
So first, let's go ahead and break down what does mainstream self-care look like. That way we can talk about what self-care is not and actually what it really is.
Okay.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. Mainstream. Oh man. So we're talking about, ooh, I got my iced latte, self-care. Ooh, what?
I went on a shopping spree, self-care.
True, right.
True.
It was on sale, so self-care. I went and got another pedicure. I didn't need one, but I got it because self-care.
$1,000 in debt. Like one of these clothes. Self-care.
What else?
I
I
was
called
just
off of work today for self-care.
That's technically like true. There is personal. I just used
I
it.
mean, no shade to
Mental
it,
health days.
but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
when you're abusing it in the
Right.
name of self-care.
I also think sometimes people say like ghosting is I know that we're not just talking about the physical, but even the emotional self-care. It's like people are like, I ghosted this person, self-care, and I'm like, I don't know, because like that's kind of hurtful to the other person. Like, is ghosting
No
self-care?
accountability.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but you know that is like something people say. Like, if I don't want to talk to you, I don't have to. True, but like.
There's a way to
go about it. I don't know. They'll be like, it's my self-care. I'm like,
Well, we have cancel culture, self-care.
Right. Everything is just, it's so, mainstream has made self-care into this selfish pit of just everything needs to be for me, by me,
So true.
my way or the highway kind of thing now.
It's almost like overindulgence.
Like
Yes.
toxic self-care. Is
Yes.
that a thing?
Yeah, toxic self-care. We need to make that the new trend. What
What
it
is
looks
toxic self-care?
and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So if that is what mainstream is pushing out and what it's not, or where people overuse it or abuse it, what does self-care actually mean and actually look like?
Well, I feel like it looks like the pillars in itself. Self-discipline, emotional regulation, joy. Like those are ways that we self-care. It's actually parenting ourselves, but also like for some of us, it's like, what do you need? What are your necessities? Do you need fun in your life, like you said, or are you a person who's on the discipline side? I feel like it's really you having that talk with yourself on what characteristics, what habits in my life do I need to put in place where I just don't feel balanced? Because if the scale's over tipping on one side and not the other, then you're not regulating yourself anymore. You're in overdrive of one or the other. So.
Yeah, I feel you on that, because to me, self-care is doing those things for yourself to bring you back into balance. Where are we falling short at? Where are we, not giving our best? When can we start implementing that? And with the mindset of it being self-care, yes, it can take care of all of these pillars, in the name of self-care, because we're coming back to self. We're doing something that will regenerate us, revive us, in a way, put us back on that routine that, as much as some people don't appreciate routines, I feel as though we, as the human population, we need some sort of structure.
Yeah.
So bringing in self-care to bring back that structure, and again, like I said, renew, recharge us to continue to be able to present our best selves.
Yeah. What would you say, Tony?
So when I think about self-care in the aspect of reparenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this earlier today, and I'm like, when we have our parental figures, our mother and father, or if you want to look at it as masculine and feminine energy, and what they would be teaching us in the parenting role, right?
Right.
So now we're looking at that aspect for ourselves. So what would it be that they would be giving to me, or I would be needing or wanting, that I need to implement in myself?
I love that.
So you look at it from, what would a masculine energy be setting you up with? The discipline aspects, the assertiveness, that type of like confidence. And then you look at the feminine side of like the nurturing, the softness, the go with the flow.
Right.
How can I bring this into play in my life in self-care?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I think that it's almost one of the most pivotal, but it does kind of cover all the other pillars, because self-care is taking care of self. And you have that across the entire board, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
So if we're going down and we're looking at how can I take care of myself physically, I'm making sure that I'm eating well, I'm exercising well, I'm making sure my mental and emotional game is on point, I'm making sure I'm tapped in spiritually. I can guarantee if somebody is putting all those things in place and balancing themselves out like that, your life is going to drastically change. Just by that's the setup for success, honestly.
Yeah. Well said. So one thing I do want to touch on, which we'll definitely get into deeper, but I wrote down, we talked about what self-care is to us, but what does it feel like to us to have these self-care habits? So I know I said renew, recharge, and everything like that, but even sometimes it's just bringing that peace.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was like when you said that, I felt immediate peace just from hearing you say it, and like very grounding, actually. Just more like, I'm here. I'm not everywhere. I'm just here in this moment, taking it step by step.
What does it feel like?
I would say replenishing.
Cool.
You want to elaborate?
We got our answer, folks.
But like,
it's sometimes for people just starting out, it can feel quite overwhelming to especially the self-care aspect. I just had a friend who recognized that she needed to stop being there emotionally for everyone. And I'm not calling her out. I'm because I know she watches, but it's a great example to this. So
that's our number one rule. No names.
right. No names. So she noticed that she needed more self-care in her life, and that she was compensating for people's emotions and feeling like she had to be there emotionally and let people dump on her their emotional needs so she could feel like she's providing something to these friendships. And then she realized that it's overwhelming for her self-care, so she goes on these binges of possibly eating or escaping on the TV, or just like needing to completely pull away from her friends, because it becomes so extreme to the fact where it's like there's not that self-care of like, I can only handle so much of your emotions. I can only handle so much. And then I even said to her, I was like, why do you why do you feel like you have to handle all this? And then she's like, because I don't feel like I'm bringing anything to these friendships. And I was like, you have more attributes than that though. So you need to, kind of align with your characteristics of what other, like, you're not just some emotion that people can hold. I mean, it's great. She's very empathic, but it's like, what else can you do for yourself? Because your friends should provide, yes, support, but also fun or like some other qualities. So I think self-care can just be first recognizing you need it, because she didn't recognize she needed it until people kept pulling her in all these different directions and she couldn't be there. So some people may be in that stage where you're like, I don't know if I need it, but you'll start to feel it kind of in your emotions if you're crying all the time, or in your body, like, or if I feel like when you're binging on things too, like, those are some signs that if you're over excess in a part of your life, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, then it could be a sign that there's something that you need to implement too.
I think also self-care is directly linked to how you feel about yourself. So there are some people that don't do it because they don't feel that they're worthy enough to pour into themselves. And so that's sometimes linked. Everything is a mirror from ourselves.
Right.
So if we don't feel worthy to pour into ourselves in that aspect, we will then pour into another person because we've almost kind of abandoned ourselves for other people. And so then
hoping that they return that back to, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely been
so
there.
it's like okay, I'll be this safe place, not really realizing I'm already safe within myself, but I'll be that safe place for other people to just dump and rag and all of those things. Like I was in that place on the first episode, right? Like so
I think acceptance is the first part.
But and of course, and like you said, seeing where you're overindulging in certain activities, because once it becomes something you have to do every day that isn't lifting you up, that isn't putting you on, your path, isn't revitalizing you, or, any of those aspects, in the long run, it's doing more damage than good. That's where we're tipping into overindulgence. And that is not okay. Anything, we said this on the last episode, too much of anything is a bad thing. It's okay. But
how would you guys say to implement balance into someone's routine or into their life? What kind of advice would you give?
I would say they have to take the discipline aspect that we talked about last time, and that has to be a huge thing, because a lot of people want to do all of these things when they feel motivated, but everybody's not going to feel motivated 24/7. So people are banking on that, and then when they don't feel motivated, they don't do it. But you have to have your discipline in place, which is usually attached to your why, to make sure that on the days I feel like it, on that I'm motivated, and the days I'm not motivated, I still have these things in place, because I know how it keeps me in check.
Right.
And start small. Like, don't feel any type of way, honestly, to be starting small. So, because that was a huge thing for me. So let me think of one goal that I had that I wanted to implement a lot. What'd I say? Like, nighttime skincare. Like, I would, when I wake up, it'll be fine. So it was not. Spoiler alert. But so I would start small. Like, at night, I'm going to wash my face. Like, I would do that just for a week. Okay, great. After that week, on top of washing my face, okay, let me add in a mask once a week. Like, okay, so, just things like that you can build on top of. Of course, have your main goal in sight. But if you're the type of person, especially if you know you're the type of person that one doesn't really have any of this scheduled in, or on the overindulgent side, just taking things a day at a time.
Yeah.
But honoring yourself, because that's a form of self-care, in making sure that thing gets done.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Well, I think that self-care, even though it is a disciplinary act in some ways, like you were saying, that should be fun because it's good for us, right? So it's like trying to set yourself up in a way that feels good to you. Like I think I said last episode, I like checklists. So like me checking off things feels like a reward system in a way. You're like, oh yeah, I did that. I'm so proud of myself kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm like lifting myself up while I do it, because when we're doing these like actions, it can almost feel like there's a heaviness in not doing it to the point where it's dragging us almost. And it's like, wait, like bring it back up, because it needs to be something I want to do this. Like, I'm not doing self-care because it's an obligation necessarily. It's because I want to do this to better my life. So I think it's also like reminding myself why, like you said, why am I doing it? And then finding a way for me that feels good, where it doesn't feel like it's a chore. It's something I want to do.
Yeah.
So I think like finding ways to make it fun or make it feel good to you is really important. So it's not on the lines of like, there's all this weight if I don't do it, which it really shouldn't happen if it's self-care, but it can feel like that, like
So I feel you. So I'll give an example, like which is a great kind of segue, self-care in discipline. How is self-care in discipline? To untrained ear, I don't know which one to say. It can sound intimidating, even coming from me, like saying I didn't have that much discipline in the area of life. So it was really just breaking it down, like, okay, well, this discipline that I need to have is actually a form of caring for myself. It is a form of setting me up for the future. So when I said, shifting your mindset towards it, sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Is just calling it a different name if you need to.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to say.
I would say there's a balance, because to me, it's not always going to feel good. And like
Yeah.
for a prime example, I would say initially, because there are people that love going to the gym, working out in general, but majority of people don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a thing. Like, damn, like, I gotta get up and do this. Like, how many times have we seen the quote where it's like, I wish I could drop my body off and pick it back up? Like, nobody really wants to be doing that for the most part. But, it doesn't feel good in the moment when I'm pushing my legs to freaking...
But it feels so good after.
It feels good after. Like, once you start seeing, like, if I'm in the midst of lifting weights or doing squats and I'm pushing myself to basically... what's the word of like, I can't go.
The max?
Yeah, like, so I can't go anymore. Like, that hurts and it sucks. Like, I wish I could be sitting on the couch, But over time, when I start to see results, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I will go back, And it's the same to me with self-care. Like, it may suck or kind of feel awkward or intimidating at first, but once you start pouring into yourself and you're like, you start feeling more like, more into yourself and like more confident and more worthy, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is something. Let me do it a little bit more,
It's also though, like, I think we mentioned this last video, or maybe it was this video, but either way, I don't know where it went, but I think I mentioned, like, also the gym may not be for you, right? You may want a home workout, you may want weights, you may want to go running or dancing, finding a way to express yourself in the way that works for you, so it doesn't feel, and I get what you're saying, you do have to push. There's a level of you get sick of it and you gotta push through it, because then it becomes a habit. Like, the gym for me is a habit that I do, and if I'm not doing that, then I'm running, or I'm trying to find a way to push my body because it needs a release. If my body does not have that way to get out of my mind, it starts to overeat, it starts to get frustrated and angry, my body's not happy with me, and I just sit on the couch instead.
Mhm.
But I can't be like that.
Right.
I want this body to work for a long time.
Right.
So I have to treat it well.
Right.
And one of the craziest things, I don't know why this is like just sitting on my mind or heart, like when people are struggling with depression, right?
Mhm.
One of their biggest things they don't realize is that, you know, they feel not motivated, of course, in that moment to get up and do anything or do something that would make them feel better. But in reality, those things are what make you feel better.
It's like it's just the resistance.
Yeah.
It's really hard when you're in the resistant. And then when you start doing it, you're like, why wasn't I doing it? But then it can be hard because you get back into you can always go back. And that's the hard part. Is like, you can always go back to the way you were. But it's again, remembering why you want to do this, you know, because your body's sacred. It's not, it needs, it's just like a child, like anything in life, it needs to be nurtured. Yeah. So if we're not, you know, nurturing our bodies, then it's going to lead to problems in the future, frustration in the body. Like, I do believe that, like, that wears on you, your mental and your emotional well-being. If it's not exercised throughout the body, it's going to stress. Yeah. And then you're going to see problems occur. Like, I don't know, like, and maybe this is because it's like a little bit spiritual for me, and I'm not trained. This is just my thought process, is that a lot of things that happen to people happen because of stress or because there's something mentally or emotionally that's blocking within the body. And so if you're not regulating the body, it's just going to, problems are going to appear.
But it's a form like physical movement. When we're just talking about this one aspect of
physical, of course,
it is emotions get stored in the body because it's energy.
Yeah.
And so that physical movement of whatever you choose is actually allowing those energies to be released. And so why you feel lighter and you're feeling the endorphins and all those things happening. And like you said, if you don't and they're just pent up and stuck, now people have literally gotten ulcers and all these different things because you just have that energy sitting in that space.
So since we said physical, what does a mental self-care act look like to you guys? For me, it's journaling. But for you?
For me, it's honestly taking a break from like any mental activity. So if I've been taking a whole bunch of classes and courses over the past couple of weeks, and it would just be like, okay, like once I started feeling overloaded, I would just, okay, this is my break time. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to watch something. Lately, my TV show of choice has been, it's called Legends. It is amazing.
Is it on Stars?
No, it's on HBO Max.
Oh, of course.
It's so what is it called? Legends or the Legends Ball or something? So I was obsessed, just a little commercial. I was obsessed with the show Pose. Like
I love Pose. I love Pose. I'm with you on that. That was great.
I binged all of that, and I just was like, oh my gosh, I would love to see one of these balls live. Like, I would love to just be in that. Like, around that, of course, I can go to, drag shows in DC or something, and that's fun, but it's not the same. It's like being at a ball, like with the categories and the trophies. And so that's the TV show. It's like a game show now, or a reality show where it's...
Drag Race?
No, not Drag Race.
Legends?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
like that.
Okay.
But, like, they're competing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like I'm at a ball, like, and I'm so happy.
My friend told me to watch it.
I love it, but that's just been my little, like, okay, just for this next 30 minutes to an hour, we'll do that instead of, because before I would just take a nap, and
that's
that
a great
nap
one.
would turn into 2 hours.
No, I do. Well, see, this is the thing with mental and TV. To me, it's like, I understand everyone has a show that they really like to watch, and you said you do it for 1 to 2 hours, but I also think that it can be a form of escapism, just because you can spend days doing it, multiple TV shows. I get one TV show, we binge, hey, but like for instance, like, there's someone I know, I'm not gonna say, but like, she watches so much TV, and I just am like, you're escaping, but I'm not gonna say it because it's like, she's, and now she's having diabetes, she's finding issues in her body, and I'm like, I'm kind of like, well, if you're escaping to the TV every day, you're not exercising, you're not even going on a walk. Like, you don't have to go to the gym. I'm just saying, like, if there's no form of escaping except to the TV, I don't, you know.
You could have been pouring into yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something
but
that
it's
we
good.
need to acknowledge
Yeah.
is escape versus trying
reality.
to invoke
Yeah.
the feeling that you want with self-care.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is where overindulgence does come in.
Mhm.
Like, once you're doing it too much, like, it's more of an escape tactic than anything.
I used to watch so much TV. Like, when I was younger, I watched so much, and it's so easy with Netflix to like really get into a couple seasons. And then now I really, I mean, there's certain shows I love watching, and I will make sure I watch them. But that's like a mental release for the day. But it's not like binging. What would you say yours is? Sorry, we just skipped.
Of like, of what?
Oh, the mental self-care.
Yeah, I would say journaling, grounding, like meditating, because that's the time when it's like everything that was going on in my mind is the moment to regroup, bring back to the present moment. Like yesterday, I sat on the balcony for like 2 hours and had tea and just enjoyed outside.
Yeah, that's nice. I think sleep's also a really good one, because when like the train of thoughts go and you get so upset and then you just like, and then you sleep and then you wake up and you're like, good. You know? I mean, I haven't had one of those in a while, but
I had one not too long ago, and yeah, definitely needed. But that was totally my body. Like, ma'am, we are sitting down and we are taking a nap. Like, I had no say.
And that happens, and people don't realize it's like when you push your body, push it to the max. Sometimes it will force you, like you end up getting sick, or you just get so drained and exhausted that you have no other choice but like sit it down.
Yeah, because sometimes with TV or like being on your computer or being on the phone, it's so much activity that it's like, whoa, I have a headache, I have mini headaches. I feel like that's also like a sign to some people.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I'm having a lot of migraines and headaches. It's like, when are you off the screen though? Because if there's nowhere that your eyes are being like, I don't know, it's just a thought I just had, like, wait.
I mean, yeah, that blue light stimulation is
overstimulating sometimes.
Yeah, that's why we said should turn it off an hour before you go to bed.
Right.
I'm bringing that back
one
up.
challenge.
Yes, I am. Jog y'all's memory real quick. So, okay, talked about it in the physical, in the mental, so emotionally.
I think
It's in hand with emotional regulation.
Yeah. I think mine's either talking to someone, like a friend or like someone that I can like, because sometimes journaling's great, but it's not I love when people can like talk, like certain friends I have who I know like will not just like, yes, listen to me, but also come back with like a question that of course I wouldn't have questioned myself in journaling. So I think for me, definitely an emotional one is a good call to a friend. Or I think for me it's TV, like, you know, like if I had like if I'm sick, or if I had like, let's say a bad breakup or a bad fight, I will watch like a love movie or a kid movie, and I know that that's gonna get me out of just my emotional thing. And then I could maybe cry to a really sad scene in Lion King. Who knows? You know?
It was filled with a couple. It had a couple.
Yours?
I would say number one, I would sit with however I'm feeling. Like, to me, that is self-care, because I'm acknowledging and caring for what's actually taking place, and I'm not suppressing it. You know, and that's the first thing that people like to run to is like, how can I avoid whatever I'm experiencing right now and do something else? But once I have like processed it and sat with it and then released it in some form or fashion, whether it's crying, whether it's physical movement, however I'm getting that energy out of my body, now I want to shift over and do something that will make me feel good, you know?
Yeah, and I think to your point, I feel like for me, emotions, and this is just, I've recognized this about myself, it's very hard for me to like not bypass it. I don't know why. I just bypass my emotions, like, okay, on to the next thought. And it's like there's not really that time where I sit with it unless it's extreme. and it's like, oh, I feel it in my chest, I feel it in my body, but it's like an extreme emotion. And I'm like, well, I guess now it's here. But it takes a really long time. A lot of times I let emotions go because I feel like they can, sometimes the emotions can drive us into doing something we don't necessarily need to do. So I think my thoughts just bypass my emotions a lot of times. So it's sometimes hard for me to emotionally self-care for myself because I forget it.
Yeah.
Naturally, it just comes out of the mind. It's like, forget it. Why?
Which is interesting, the polarizations of people's personalities, because some people are like that and some people are on the opposite, where their emotions literally drive their entire life. Like, oh, I feel this, I'm gonna go do this. I feel this, I'm gonna do, and it's always coming back to, I have to bring both of those into balance,
So when people say zodiac sign shit isn't real, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I have a lot of air in my chart, so it's like, and then I have the earth energy, but like I have no water in my chart at all. Barely, maybe a hint of fire, a little.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. I don't have any like prominent, but like pretty much all my planets are in the 5th house, and Cancer rules the 5th house. So
yeah, that's a great point. You may but you may have a bunch of houses in it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So I feel you on that, like with the whole, if it's not there, it's just not there.
Sometimes
like if the
it's really
emotion
not.
just isn't there. Like, yeah, my brain will, do a whole bunch of things, try to put 2 and 2 together in the moment and think diplomatically and all of those things. So I truly don't feel an emotion until I feel it.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even say extreme, because
for me it's like extreme. Like, it has to be a really serious argument or like something that's really pushed me emotionally to get there.
Yeah, I mean, so it definitely depends on the situation, who it's with, what it's surrounding and things like that. But for the most part, like, especially with sadness, and I'll get into this a little bit more in an upcoming episode.
Here she goes.
Because we already recorded. About how, so like recently, it was something that happened to me years ago, and I didn't feel any of the emotions towards it until a couple weeks ago.
Right.
So it's like,
it can hit.
For me, it's just it's just a crazy thing, just being open to it, like when it does hit, to let it flow, because I can't let any emotion that's not there flow. I can't force it out of me.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of like where I feel you on that, because I'm like, I can't do it unless it's at a certain point where I can't help but look at it, but it's just not here in this month, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, other things like cause me to even just forget about it. And sometimes, this is great. I definitely suffered from, what's it called? Depression. But like when you're like doing stuff. Like, I wasn't
functioning depression.
Yes, thank you. I definitely, and that I forgot so much. Like, people seldom, I know it's out there, but people seldom talk about how much you forget when you're in a depressive state, and especially being a functioning one. I'm not depressed. Like, I would just like.
Sometimes you don't realize it though. You're not awakened to the fact you were until you learned something that put you in a place to recognize. Oh, that was numb.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was really numb.
It'll be something so random that'll pop up for me, or just even the thought of it happening before, like on the random scale, and that's how the emotion gets pulled out. But like I said, I do sit with it. Like, do I see that as a form of self-care. Not in the present moment.
Yeah.
But it truly is. And then I will, I'll just take it easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like after that, especially, you know, crying or any emotion that is in its extreme phase of being present, it just, okay, like we're good. We're glad we got that out. We're glad we're in a safe space to get that out, but just chill out.
I also
Just
feel
chill.
with emotion, a lot of times it's, I mean, yes, you have your own emotion and it's not, you know, with other people, but I feel like I'm a person where it's like I usually tell people how I'm feeling anyways, so that's my form of expression through my, it's just telling you how I feel right now, like that's what it is, and then I just leave it where it was. So maybe that is like the way I do it. I just tell people where I'm at.
Yeah.
And
Which is nice. Like,
Yeah.
which is commendable.
yeah, so it doesn't feel like it's self-care, it's just something I'm speaking out. So I think even my emotion comes out like a mental, it's a emotional thing that I'm telling you how I feel, but it's coming out as a mental and physical, or a mental release. Actually, yeah, it's a mental release, not physical.
I mean, it could.
Yeah.
I would like manifest physically.
True.
Like with just speaking it out.
Yeah,
Because
that's
a lot
true.
of times, I even find that to be true. Just
Yeah.
speaking on what it is, and then I'm like, oh, all right, like, we're good now. Like, I'm fine. Yeah.
So now that you mentioned manifestation, what would you guys say your spiritual self-care act is?
Mine is. So I mean, I don't know. So I will meditate, like, but with the goal to hear, well, like to be open for listening, because I read that somewhere as well. Meditation is for listening, prayer is for asking, and I liked it. I don't think it's just for that, but you know, I like it, and I love learning. Like I've been like traveling the astral.
Oh, really?
Lately, yeah. that's
Like
been
lucid
fun.
dreaming, or like no astral projection?
Like astral projection.
That's awesome.
It
It's
has
a little
been
scary to
tricky.
me, but you know.
you just gotta, you keep your head on a swivel and you know just
Wow.
trust your intuition to a T.
Yeah.
I lucid dream a lot. I feel like if there with dreaming, you probably fall in some area that you do a little bit more than you do another. Maybe. I don't know. For me, I do a lot of lucid dreaming in terms of like that stuff. So I don't do astral projection, but I lucid dream a lot.
It's just so cool to me. Like
Yeah.
I think it's the coolest thing ever. Yeah. And I'm just like, woo! I went so many places. Sometimes I'll wake up and be like, oh shit,
Wow.
I don't remember coming back. I mean, I'm okay. Like, but like, I hope I didn't get myself into no trouble. Like,
Oh my gosh. Okay, you go far. You go so
Like,
far you
whoops.
don't remember when you came back. You blacked out at some point. Like what?
You end up my ass knocked out.
What's your tongue?
I would say get into for me it's a lot of getting back to stillness, because then I can hear and be in that connection with divine or whatever it is that you choose to believe or call it. Another thing that I like to do is like have these random like games, and it's like, hey, like if you want me to go over here or do all this, just like show me these little signs or show me this physical thing. And I've done that. Like I've been on like these scavenger hunts where it's like God will show me this particular item, and then that's where I'm supposed to be at, and go talk to this person over here, and that whole type of thing.
That's awesome. I like that. For me, my spiritual is either meditation, or nature walking, because I just love, I don't know why, I find it to be very spiritual for me to go on walks, and then in like hiking, and then of course I do tarot, because sometimes it's just like I get my answers there. So those are my three, I would say.
Yeah. know what you're saying.
Yeah. Someone knows.
It just came back. Like, alright.
Because you brought it up earlier, and then I was like, I haven't said that in a while. And then now you're like, I'm saying it like so much.
Oh my gosh, know what I'm saying? Got you.
So with joy,
Mm-hmm.
what do you guys think about joy as far as in reparenting? What does that look like?
Like, as it fitting in, like, being in the reparenting
As a
pillars.
pillar, yeah.
Yeah. I feel as though joy is needed in the human experience.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we came for.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what we came on earth for is having joy. So, not forgetting about that and not getting too caught up into the mundane, if you will, of discipline, because too much of it, or it really being the driving force behind, your day to day, why you do things. Now, if that brings you joy, being in discipline, that's a different story. I'm not talking to y'all.
Period.
Like myself.
I'm not talking to you, boo. But just getting lost in the gotta do this, gotta work, gotta have money, and not even understanding what it is that brings you joy.
Yeah.
So I feel like in not implementing those things, that is detrimental in the long term.
Yeah.
I feel like missing joy is like, that's where it comes in.
Mhm.
It's just that reminder to, you can have fun, you can enjoy what you enjoy, but with everything in balance. It's just like that reminder.
I think that joy is like your sense of why you're doing something, as you were saying, like, why am I making this money, or why am I doing this job? Like, the job to an extent should be at a point of joy to do it. Like, you should be, your work is you providing a service, and you should enjoy providing that service to a certain extent. Of course, there's days where we don't enjoy maybe our job necessarily, right? But that's the point of having work is something that's fulfilling us. What's the fulfillment? The joy it brings to us. So I think, like, in a lot of books you read, especially spiritual ones, they'll say that, you walk a path, but you walk it so that it brings you that. So it's a really important pillar to have, because it's the reason why you're doing the stuff you don't necessarily, maybe it's not as fun, right? But maybe it is something you need that can provide the balance of the harshness of maybe the discipline act, or the emotional regulation isn't necessarily like hard, but for some it is if you weren't taught it. So it's like, I do think that joy is the reason why we're doing something to an extent. Like, my body does feel good after the gym. That is a joy in itself. So, or, there's so many other ways that we can look at that. But I think it's such a key pillar, because it's the purpose of what we do, in a sense.
Yeah. Your turn.
So let me pose this question. We hear the word happiness, and then we hear joy. And so, what would you guys say is the difference between the two?
May I take this?
Go. Have it.
So I heard this years ago at church once, that happiness, the difference between happiness and joy is, happiness is an emotional state that can go away, can be taken away. You can let people take it from you. However, joy is a constant state of mind with what you have. Of course, we're going to have days where we're not as happy as normal. Of course, we're going to have days where we're not as angry, or we're going to have those days. It's just going to happen. Like, that's just a fact. But we don't forget about the joy that we have within ourselves, within our environment, within our community, even. You know, to me, joy is at the core of a lot of gratitude. And that also poses, you know, just joy being at the end of that emotional regulation.
Yeah.
Like I said, in the present moment, do I feel like emotional regulation is self-care? Hell no. Like, I hate this. But it's, I'm so, like, just that release of doing it. How do you feel? Like, I feel grateful that it happened and that being in joy. What I want to ask y'all is, because I kind of thought about this a little bit, it kind of just came in, just a different perspective on happiness versus joy being how much power is given to each, or how much power are you willing to give away in each of those aspects. Do you get what I'm saying?
Not necessarily.
No, thank you.
Okay, great.
I mean, like, are you saying between? Are you talking
about
about the four that we talked about, like mental, physical, and spiritual, emotional? Or are you talking about spirit? I'm sorry. Are you talking about joy versus happiness, and how do we?
So I'm saying, so specifically happiness versus joy, right? Happiness being I can give you the power to take away my happiness. Versus joy being more so how much power do I give you to interrupt my joy?
Well, I believe that when I'm doing something with someone, I feel like it's a give and take. They're giving me something, I'm taking something, I'm giving them something, they're taking something. So I have joy in the giving and receiving process. There's not a time where I've really ever felt like, oh, I'm giving so much of myself, because at the end of the day, it's like I should be comfortable with what I'm giving. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, it's I don't have that issue per se, because if I'm giving something to you, it's a part of my unconditional love that I want to do that. So if I'm mad at anyone, I'm going to be mad at myself for that. I'm not going to be mad at you, because I can say the next time I don't want to hang out with you, or I don't want to talk to you, or, you know, like break it up in a way that feels comfortable to me. So I never feel like in that way I'm giving someone that, if that makes sense.
I would say it doesn't seem right to give away your power in either one of the aspects. But does it happen all the time? Yes. Because to me, I believe happiness is a choice. Because if someone stresses me out, I have the decision to make of whether I'm going to allow that situation to rob me of feeling happy in that moment. You know, but if I make the decision of like, these things belong to me,
right?
You can't have them,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just being aware and mindful of like, when you get into an argument or disagreement with somebody, like how long am I going to allow that to disrupt however I was already feeling within myself? But let me ask you this. So if I look at happiness as a choice and an external choice, and I look at joy as an internal, like it's always there anchoring me, right? A state of being, a state of consciousness. A lot of times when I ask people what gives them joy, they will name something externally. Which, not to say that's wrong or right, but let me ask you this question. If it is purely based internally, right? I'm going to go Zen moment on you guys for a second and be real fast. I want you to close your eyes.
I already feel it. I know what you're talking about right now.
And I want you to picture yourself being in a empty room. It's just a box room, and everything is just white walls. There is nothing in this room except for you, sitting Indian style in the middle of this room. So there's nothing externally necessarily that could bring you joy. So that means you have to tap into everything within you to find your own source of joy. So now open your eyes and tell me what brings you joy.
Connection. Because in that moment, if I'm in a 4 white walls, I have nothing.
Right.
but myself, which is not, there's nothing wrong with being by yourself.
Right.
But I think in life, like, it's just over time, like, people aren't meant to be alone. So for me, feeling connected, whether it's to nature or whether it's to family or friends, I think connection is really important to me. And that brings me a lot of joy.
Well, first thing that came to me, like, I just started smiling right away. It's
Me
like,
too.
yeah. Just peace. Like, it's just feeling peace and oddly, even though it's just me being by myself, nothing external, it's an element of freedom there.
Yeah.
That I also love.
And this is why I asked you guys this. Do I believe that connections and all of these external things can be an expression of our joy? Yes. And I think that we are meant to have those things with each other. However, I always want people to be aware that your joy is based that no matter what scenario or what situation or whatever chaos is going around you, that you can center it back to blocking everything out that's externally and still, despite all of that, still being able to anchor into that joy.
Yeah.
That was a great exercise that I hope y'all did. Just saying. I'm throwing shade to the ones that did not.
So what do you say to someone, since, you know, you coach people all the time, who says, or in a depression or in a bad spot, where they say they can't find joy? Or what would you say?
So we go back to the choice. And like we've talked about, this is a healing process, right? So it's not to downplay the emotions and the experiences and the darkness or heaviness that you go through on the one side. But you do have a decision of whether you want to process that, release it, or stay there or not.
Yeah.
And so when you have that moment of like, what is it internally that you're magnifying? And what are you feeding and building up? You know, are you in a state where it's become part of your identity almost, of this dark, negative angle? You know, I don't know how to be outside of everything is pitch black and everything sucks and nothing's going to go my way. You know, people get into that as an identity role.
It does. And you don't even know you're doing it to an extent. Because if you're numb and you just... I feel like it's a part of, we'll talk about, I guess in the next episode, we'll talk about, you know, ego death and the dark night. But prior to that, if you're numb and you're just, you don't notice it, and okay, I'm not going to say this. No, I'm not going to say it 'cause it's going to sound bad. I don't want to say victim, because you're not. But it's like, you know, you just don't see it from another side and you're looking at that angle, then it can... you can't see it. You can't see the shadow if you're in your shadow.
But people do.
So that's the problem. The problem. We can't see the shadow if we're in the shadow.
But there are some people that do.
Yeah.
And there are some people that do play the victim. Because if I choose, like I said, a lot of things we choose to take on as an identity because I don't know anything else. And if I were to step out of this victim mentality or deposition, then who would I be? Because people have correlated me to this and I've built my lifestyle around it. So like I said, it's still making a conscious choice of doing things to magnify or feed a different aspect. You know, we are going to have the darkness and the light within us at all times.
And I think a great way to like even get into the light, not to say just do this now, you'll feel so much better. Maybe not, because you're going to have resistance to it, but is a sense of gratitude for the things you do have, whether it's a roof over your head or, you know, a car to drive or your body's functioning, you can see. Like, I know these things are like, yeah, but we forget the small things that, like, we're walking, we're breathing, you know, those small things that we have, and we're meant to experience life. So if you have those fundamentals, we can just start there. And of course, like, it's a like, I don't know, positive penny aspect. I don't know, I'm giving it a name, positive penny, but like everything's just so great. No, but we have to start with like baby steps, whether it is gratitude or an affirmation, to recognize what we do have, because we play a narrative so much in the mind that we just create it over and over. And so there has to be something else to replace that mindset. and it is hard to when you're in your shadow, but you have to bring in that light. It's a choice to bring in that light to balance it out.
Gratitude changed my life.
Thing.
Just first thing in the morning, 3 things that you're grateful for. I'm pretty sure I said that's in the episode before. This is like a great like throwback episode.
Throwback.
See if y'all been keeping up. But I never realized how powerful gratitude was until I actually did it every single day. Just even if I didn't feel like it, just reminding myself of the blessings that are surrounding me. And actually being grateful for it, like actually feeling grateful for it. And it's just you can't help but find the joy that you do have at practicing that gratitude. Like I freaking woke up today. My mom woke up today. Like she's healthy, I'm healthy. It's 2021. I don't got COVID. I ain't have COVID. Like exactly. Like it's like, dude, I can see like
where it falls.
I put shampoo in my eye the other day. Whew, I'm so happy I can see. Like
it's crazy you mention that because I don't think it's taught ever in school. Like that's something that actually like why aren't they teaching kids this? Like that's a fundamental way of living. In my belief, like write 3 things you're grateful for at the start of your day to the kids. Like, like that wasn't something we did. We had to pledge allegiance to the freaking flag for whatever reason.
We had to say thank you. But why? We don't know.
Yeah, like I'm just like, noticing this. I'm like, why wasn't that a form of, a form of teaching children or, there's just so many things when I think of education of how many ways they could just be reformatting children and like fixing some of the those qualities that could really transform a child's life. Like if I had that as a kid, where would I be now? Like I don't know. There'd be a lot of like I have a lot of blessings, but who knows how many more I get? Like
Like, think about the generations prior and who were the people that were teaching us. They weren't capable or a state of mind to. They weren't even grateful for them, in themselves. So it's how could they teach us
when they don't know?
Right.
And then sometimes I think we get intimidated by being positive because we think that we're not supposed to have any bad days or any darkness or any negative thought. Everything is supposed to go from 0 to 100. I'm supposed to go from woe is me to everything is rainbows.
This is not how it goes.
Yeah.
In the way of life, it's ups, downs, in between rocks. Like, gotta take the secret path to the other side, hop over.
Not too long ago, I was just like, yo, just trying to stay positive, all positivity. I mean, it's bullshit.
You can't learn a lesson that way.
It's fake to me.
Exactly.
You can't learn a lesson that way. And not every time you go one way, there's one way to do it. Like, your life is meant to be lived through a series of learning processes. And there's just not, like, yes, like, I do think we can look at situations in a certain light and we can look and be like, okay, wait, am I looking at it this way or am I looking at it that way? Because I would say, for me, on, like, that talk, I was a very negative mindset person. Now I would say I'm on the more positive spectrum or more relaxed spectrum. Like, hold on, let me just see how this plays out before I just react because my ego's speaking out or something like that. I don't necessarily think that's positive. I just think it's like enlightenment of the process my brain was doing previously. But, there's ways that we go about things. And I agree that, like, there's this positive. It's not positive. It's just like if I take myself out of the situation, let's weigh the thing. Is it true? Yeah. Is what I'm really thinking, is it true? And it's like, how do I know that that's true? Because I think sometimes we believe in things and we just play this narrative.
Well, the relaxed frame of mind is actually enlightenment because, like, let's go with Zen teaching, right? If everything, like, you're looking at everything as a neutral. Because our ego and our emotions is what creates a label and gives it a positive or a negative. Yeah. But if everything is not attached to us and we're just looking at everything as neutral, like, okay, that happened. Okay.
Right.
That happened. All right. Like, but we get so emotionally charged and we're like, oh, this is awful, oh, this is the best thing, and we have no idea what is the next domino that's going to fall that could be incredible, or we don't know what's going to happen from this one thing.
It's really interesting because it's like I think about ways that people want you to be in life, like the way that we're taught sometimes, and I feel like we're taught to be very quick-witted. Oh, quick, like especially Americans.
Yeah.
Especially we're taught to, like, you're fast, you're quick, you do things like this, you do things. Slow's not it. Americans aren't considered slow. We're considered fast-paced, first to do this, or the best to do this. So it's not really teaching you, like, I believe in our society, necessarily patience, practice makes perfect. That's not taught. It's taught, get good grades, do this a certain way, follow the system, this is how you do it, climb that ladder.
Right.
It's very technical in its approach, and it doesn't, I'm not blaming here, I'm just saying it's naturally wired within us through our society to be fast and to make fast decisions, which is why we can either feel very emotionally charged or do something quick-witted, because I feel like we're kind of taught it.
Yeah, to be first, have kids first, get married first, buy
You're
a
on a
house
time
first.
clock.
Yeah.
Says who?
Right.
Says
And so it doesn't matter. That's why, unfortunately we have let's go with marriages, right? We have so many of divorces and things not working because I had to do it first, and it's not that I had to do it right or I had to be in truth. I just had to do it first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or on the church aspect.
Right.
Had to do it the right way, but
Like, is there a right
we
way to
actually
pray?
ain't that
Like,
good
what?
together, so now we gotta separate. Like,
yeah. Like, there's a right way to pray. There's a right way that you pronounce your sins. Like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Says who?
Right.
Right.
Right. How many times these ancient scripts have been rewritten?
I mean, they're great. They teach you something, but it's meant for you to learn.
Yeah.
It's not meant to learn one single-minded way to do it.
Right.
So it's just like, I don't know. I feel like that in itself, like finding the middle ground to your observations isn't something that we are taught, but something we have to learn because society's not teaching it. And even in our current generation, we're not teaching that.
We are right now.
We are right now. That's right. Okay, she said it. I'm just saying, like, what's out there is like find your purpose, and
It's a big lack of accountability.
Yeah.
Out there, like in all, just what made me think of that was just the positive vibes only. Like, it's just such a lack of accountability.
Yeah.
Like on all sides.
And there's just too much information that you get overwhelmed and confused. You don't know where to go anymore. I was listening to this one guy talk about why the millennials are the way that they are, and how we were coddled as children, and how
what household was that?
and how we're the in-between, in that they didn't do enough to teach us the right way because we don't know discipline as hard as our ancestors do. And I'm just like, maybe some points you're hitting on, I understand, but it's like, why does this is nothing against other generations. Oh, why do they always shit on us? Like, as if like we are the cause of everything. Like, they always come to us and it's like, it's the millennials who's like,
because we're changing shit.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
No one is comfortable with change.
Yeah.
We adjust that as well, or we're going to. Don't remember anymore.
She just put it out there. We're making change.
Like, but we're really like in this is just across the board, astrology, spiritually. We are the generation that's like comfortable with calling out other people's accountability, like calling out people needing to have accountability. We're the generation that's calling out the bullshit practices that are in place. We're the generation that's like, well, all right, since you think we ain't doing it the right way, we gonna show you the right way. So I feel at the end of the day, it's the fact it is about us invoking change, and any amount of change is uncomfortable at the beginning. And if you look at it from the perspective of those generations feeling responsible for, building the country up to what it is today, and us not being in the same light as them or even being disciplined like them. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna just call a spade here. And that just sounds like jealousy, to be honest.
Yeah, I think
Like,
there's a
it's
sense of
just-
freedom. I think there's a big sense of freedom in the fact that you can make money not working so hard.
Right.
And that's what every single one before us has believed, except us. Like the ones who are like, you don't have to work that hard. You can actually find fulfillment in what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think we're really like big on that. And so it's a sense of freedom of like all these pressures that are placed on me.
Yeah.
We can learn how to remove them.
Wait, let me ask. When you say discipline, because I'm thinking about like getting disciplined versus actioning out a discipline. What were you meaning it as when you said it?
When I said what?
Discipline.
Did I say?
When you first brought up the older generations and
I was
us
just
having certain things and we're not disciplined the same way that they are, my mind went straight to
I think
disciplinary action.
no, I think when I mean discipline is like they're taught to have such strong discipline in terms of like work. So you can have this and you can have that and you can have this. Not actually, as we're talking about joy, not finding a joy in doing what they're doing. And I think a lot of us millennials are like, no, we don't have to work hard and work so much and then we're not finding joy in our life. Like, and I think they notice that especially within their parents, grandparents, the relationships between one another. We have to do this. No, we don't have to get married. No, we don't have to like, have a job that doesn't fulfill us. No, I don't. Just because auntie said this about, this, and this is the right way to do it based off a book, that doesn't mean we have to do it that way.
Right.
And so I think that's what I mean by they were disciplined a certain way. Because I think my friend said this today, traditions. Traditions from generations, from wherever you've lived on this earth. Because America's still new in ways. And so, but your family comes from somewhere and they have traditions that they've placed on you and have made you do those traditions that do kind of sometimes feel like a discipline in a way. So I think that's what I mean. More like traditions that have come through time after time and they're taught there's not much joy except what you provide to the family. It's other than, I know Americans don't really think like that, but I think a lot of other cultures do. What are you doing for the family?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the millennial generation, even the ones who are first generations, are like, but I got to take care of myself because there's that aspect coming in. So I think there's a lot of what the millennials doing is change, but in a way where they're trying to find fulfillment and joy in what they're doing. Why am I getting married to this person? Why am I having kids? Why am I having this job?
Right.
Questioning things, which in life, as time goes on, there's not one way to do it. What works for one family or one person may work, but it's not going to work for everyone. And that I think millennials understand that everyone needs to respect everyone's way of doing something in a different way.
I agree.
I agree too.
Because I think every person individually, their journey looks different. And like you said, a lot of times the newest generation is expected to take care of the last generation when it's like, we're like, hey, that is not my responsibility. Like, it's not my fault. You didn't put yourself in place to take care of yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
personally, I want to do it. It would bring me much joy to care for my dad and not have my dad care for me because of how much he did for me. And I'm like very grateful. So that's something that's like a reason why I want to do something in life because it brings me joy to like see my dad, like, I got you a car. I got you this, like, just to see my dad's face, like, you bought me this car. Like, I would love to do that. That would fulfill my cup up to the top because I love seeing my dad happy.
Which is great as that you have that choice.
Exactly.
But not as this is mandated over you.
No, exactly. And he doesn't. He's like, I got to take care of myself. I was like, it's really interesting because, it's like, that's not how he unfortunately, like, that's not how he was taught. He was taught like, I'm gonna care for my mom. It's my responsibility. I think that's what I want to say. Not discipline, but responsibility is placed on us. It's like that's my responsibility. And now that he's doing it, he's like, I never want you to be responsible for me.
Right.
And I'm like, but I want to. You're mine. I'm so attached to my dad. It's like, you're not going anywhere. It's like kind of thing. But it's because he brings me joy. I don't have him for a long time. So I got to have as much as I can.
Right.
You know?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I think my point is that you can see responsibilities changing. And I think it does definitely, for me, it does start with looking at my family dynamic and seeing theirs. And then, okay, I'm not going to do all that.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting is a lot of kids don't know how to get out of it. You know, how to get out of the responsibility. And my parents, I don't know what to tell people because it's like my parents put the responsibility and just, they don't put it on me. I just don't think, they just know I'm not going to do it. They play, it's not happening. So they don't come to me for it. They'll go to one of the other two and they'll be like, how do you do it? I'm like, because they know the answer before it's done. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, you know, like there's only so much they'll come to me for, and they know what they can and they know what they can't.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's some boundaries that have been placed, of course, but I think some of it's just in the way that I move, you know? So I don't know, like if you're trying, for anyone out there, just make the move and people will follow suit. You don't have to overthink it or feel so guilty. Mm-hmm. You just got to make the moves to center yourself.
Yeah.
And people will follow the moves you make.
I think that's another point too. We stop feeling guilty.
Yeah.
This generation.
Yeah.
Like,
there's no guilt.
We don't give a fuck.
No, it's so bad.
That was a big thing.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Mom.
Within traditions. So it was like 2 years ago, I quit Christmas. I just quit it. And it was hard. Like, it wasn't for me. For me, it was...
Right.
Because...
It didn't bring you joy.
Well, I had no understanding of why the hell am I having a tree in my house. Like, why are we doing that?
Mm-hmm.
But the other part is like... So now we have the thing of like, I tell people, hey, I'm not doing Christmas, right? But they're like, oh, well, we're still going to get you something. So initially I did have guilt of like...
Why not get you something?
I felt bad, but then I was like, you know what? I told y'all I wasn't doing
If you feel led. Like,
I have a question. Do you do that with your nieces and nephews too?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, across the board. I mean, when I quit, I quit.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not doing that over here.
I've tried to quit, and then I'm just like, I can't.
I told y'all in January, don't expect nothing in December.
She quit Christmas.
Oh my god.
She's a crank.
Oh my god. The Grinch.
No, you don't saw Christmas with the Cranks when they were like quitting Christmas.
That's me.
But then they went back to celebrate Christmas.
No.
Anyways.
Really cute Grinch, by the way.
I think that's my spirit animal.
Like you have just.
Actually, yeah, you do have like a who
Doesn't she
face.
have the...
It's cute. It's a good thing. It's a compliment. It's not bad. Like Cindy Lou was really cute. Is it bad? Like, yeah, you what?
Have you seen a who? Like, bro.
No, it's not bad. Cindy Lou is like fucking adorable.
Yeah, but she was a who. Like, do you see her nose?
I
Her
know.
nose
Okay,
didn't
we're
go
not
in yet.
talking. No, you obviously don't have the who. Yeah, her nose didn't come in yet. Actually, thank you, Sydney.
And it would be worse when it did, because then it's just like straight dog
I'm just
style.
thinking like you remind me a little bit of Cindy Lou. Like, and you know, like I think it's a compliment.
Ooh, child.
Anyways.
So
That was a
anyways.
great, joyous moment to wrap this up and get into last week's challenge.
Yes, so that was about having our forgiveness letter. Who wants to share? Not it, but my who knows.
Oh my gosh. She's not gonna let me live this down.
Nope.
Just let's reverse. Like rewind time.
This week.
You look like a who.
Nina's in Tanya.
No, she said it and I was like, yeah, that's kinda how it went.
I didn't say she looked like a who. I said she would look like a good Grinch. Like with the makeup and everything.
That's what I'm
but,
saying.
like,
Alright, I'm sorry. I didn't
and
think
she
it
was
was
like,
offensive.
thank you. He said she was like, yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
I am the
But
Grinch.
Cindy Lou was right. Draw the line.
Okay, good to know. Everyone, please let me know if you agreed. Get a side by side of Cindy Lou and you together. I'm just kidding.
Keep going with it.
I'm just kidding. You brought her back up. All right, let's go.
That's so
Okay,
funny. Nina
so-
was in my forgiveness letter last week, and now
what?
she can be in your next forgiveness letter. You don't remember?
You did not tell me I was a part of your forgiveness letter.
No, because you weren't. It
Oh.
was a joke from the last episode.
Oh, I didn't get it. That one went
Good
over my
job.
head. Okay.
Okay. Your forgiveness letter. How'd it go?
So my forgiveness letter was to my teacher because I don't know. I was thinking about people that like have done that's been forgiven, you know. So I was just thinking about things that have really affected me like throughout my years, and I think education's been a huge one because I've dealt with ADHD, and I don't think people made it a problem instead of like oh man, she's suffering so much. So I think my education has always like kind of stumbled. So my forgiveness letter was to educators and teachers.
Mm.
Nice.
So.
So I did a meditation instead of in lieu of a letter. So the meditation was like, you know, visualizing this person that you could forgive and having them in your space, and basically having that love energy just being onto them, and not having any of the hostility or unforgiveness or any of these things, but just giving them, you know, for pure forgiveness and gratitude just for who they are as a person. And so that was my exercise that I did.
How it was? I mean, like, y'all just talking about like what you did. Like, how was it? Like, how did it feel? The people want to know.
I was mad.
The people in
Yeah,
me.
I was
mad.
I was annoyed. I was annoyed. I wouldn't say I was like angry mad, but I was annoyed because it's not something that I recognize until it's like it's such a defense mechanism for me, or like I fall into the place where I feel stupid, or like, you know, or like I so it like borders for me. It's like, dang, like, I don't feel like I was handled right, you know, and I'm a child, so it's just kind of like, you know, so it was frustrating. I think I felt frustrated and annoyed that like these conditions are kind of placed on me. It's not who I am. Yeah. Which in a way, it's very freeing, because it's like I'm not that way. It's something that's placed upon me based off scores and whatever, but that's not knowledge. That's not meaning I'm smart or dumb just because I don't do well on a test. So I think like she said, it's like annoying or it's frustrating for me, but at the same time, it's freeing. It feels good to like notice that it's not something within me. It's something that was a condition placed on me.
I think it's normal that once you're in that process of like wanting to forgive somebody, your old feelings of why you don't in the first place are going to rise back up, and
The defense.
you're gonna feel all of that, like, oh yeah, this is why I'm pissed off, you know. So
Right.
it's like all of that comes back, but then you have to be like, all right, this is why I am forgiving you, this is what I'm doing, I'm releasing that, now I can move on, and then it is a freeing feeling after that.
Yeah. So for myself, I did another journal entry. And I'm now hearing y'all want to do this like every day of the week almost. But so I wrote another one than what I told you guys about, and I forgive my church, especially specific people that were in the church. You know, just remembering how they acted, things that they said to certain people, the hypocrisy of it all, and just the
I feel you.
just everything. Like quick little tidbit. Did I say this in an episode? Oh no, I did say this in the last one. One particular person ended, you know, like I did what was right and had my meetings with the people I needed to have it with. I said, hey, you know, I still love you. They say, I know you do, and turns around and like walks away. Which I'm like, hey, yo, what? Like every other, like that hurt me like a lot. You know, knowing people are like, oh, Sydney, she goofy. She gonna be pregnant before she get married. Like just in passing. Like not that I blame him for anything that happened, but why would you speak that?
Right.
Like, you know, we're all supposed to be cool. Like, yes, love. Like it's all there, but
It's very
not.
arrogant.
And
It sounds so arrogant. I know you do. Like, what?
Give me it back.
Well, so and it was funny because this happened years ago, and I would every now and then when I felt the emotions come up, you know, just I forgive them. Forgiveness is for me, not for them. Forgiveness is for me, not for them. But it didn't really like solidify until I was writing it down. Like, okay, you did do this, that, and the third. And how I feel is very valid because I'm not the only person that feels this way. But I digress. And
I have a team that supports this.
And then just getting into like just writing it down, like honestly just does something with making it plain and right there. And honestly, sometimes writing it down kind of calms you down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like making you see another perspective, like outside perspective almost.
Right.
So it was a huge release. I did get a little annoyed again, a little bit, but like, because I'm still just like flabbergasted that someone would say that like at all. But it was really it was a really nice release, and like a little sprinkle on top, like ripping it out of my notebook, setting that joint on fire, and just like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I've done the fire piece, it's never really worked out for me. I'm like, am I gonna burn myself? So I was.
Do you have nothing to put it in?
No, I did, but it gets like all the way high, and I'm like, when is it coming down? Like, you know.
Watch out! Don't burn the house down.
Right.
And so, what's this episode's challenge?
So
To choose.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of different things about self-care in this episode.
And the last.
And the last, and all the ones prior.
Y'all just didn't know it.
Gotcha.
And so I'm sure that you've heard some of our examples, or maybe you have some of your own ideas. Some of our things may not work for you, some may, but the point is to try something and find your fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge is to choose a self-care act. I'm gonna say daily, and it could even be 5 minutes a day, because I don't believe self-care should only be when I go on vacation or when I do these things. It needs to be a everyday.
It needs to be a discipline.
Yeah, you know, if I have to charge my phone every day, just imagine what we have to do with our physical bodies, right?
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Y'all understand what she just said.
So find something that you want to incorporate, whether it's even 5 minutes a day, and we challenge you to add that into your routine and tell us how it affects you.
Let it charge you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Thank you all for tuning in for another episode. We will see you in 2 weeks, and we hope you take care. This is Highness Talk. I'm Sydney.
I'm Tani.
I'm Nina.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.